So I guess when you're trying to get pregnant with multiple sclerosis, there's a lot of talk about preconception and then once you've conceived and then during pregnancy, but there is not much talk about post-pregnancy in terms of what do you deal how do you deal with a newborn while having MS. So I found that with my neurologist, there was lots of talks in terms of um, relapsing after having a baby. So, because we knew what had happened with my sister and how her relapses were, my neurologist, after looking at my scans and my MRIs and understanding like my MS, I say my MS again because everyone's MS is so different. He did suggest that I go back on medication as soon as possible to make sure that I lower the risk of any sort of relapse in terms of where the lesions on my brain are and not wanting any of those to get inflamed because that would make the situation of having a newborn a lot harder. So that also was a difficult decision because I was told at the time that once you start treatment, you have to stop breastfeeding. So then there was the decision of, well, how soon do I start? Because I did want to try to breastfeed. And so you finished, trying to make all of the decisions pre-pregnancy, and then you're faced with these ones post-pregnancy. And you don't ever really know how you're going to feel about breastfeeding or anything like that until you're actually put in the situation. So you can think a lot of things before, but you really don't know until you've had the baby and you are in the situation where you're doing it. And I was in a situation where I was like, I need to be well for my baby, so I will have treatment as soon as my neurologist thinks that it is important to do so. But then I had my baby and I did really enjoy breastfeeding. So it was I knew that I needed to have treatment to make sure that I didn't relapse, but it was also really sad having to stop breastfeeding. And then you don't, it's not as simple as just stop breastfeeding. You have to make sure that your baby is now latching to a bottle instead of your breasts. And it just the whole thing is just, it's so complex when it sounds so easy to talk about. When you're actually in the situation, it's not just about you. Your baby is needing to now go along this journey with you and try adjust to going from one thing to a bottle, and then from breast milk to formula, finding which formula is good with their gut. It's yeah so that with my first child was, I found, really difficult. No one ever prepares you for that. They don't ever prepare. Nothing can prepare you for how your baby is going to take to breast milk or formula. You really just have to ride that wave and get through it. What I found really difficult is that once I had my daughter, we went into that big COVID lockdown. So we didn't have access to as many things as possible. Everything was done over the phone. So I felt really disconnected to everything, because usually where I would go to people, I would go to my doctors for that advice and that help. You couldn't really. Um, so that was really difficult post pregnancy. Having treatment post pregnancy with a newborn, so with a 6 week old, was really difficult. Leaving her to go to hospital and have treatment, I didn't think was going to be hard. But when I sat in the seat at the hospital, all I did was start crying. Because again, you just don't know how you're going to feel. You've got so many crazy hormones going on. You've just had a new baby that you don't know really what the hell you're doing. And then you're going into treatment knowing you're not going to feel well, and then wondering, how am I going to go home and care for it when I get home? So that also was really difficult the first time around. I definitely can say, having a second child, I was obviously more prepared. So, and it wasn't COVID times. So I had people rally around me. I had my family to come and help. So it was a completely different experience. So they were like day and night, my two pregnancies. But again, it just goes back to being able to have the knowledge and arming yourself with the knowledge and what you can control to be able to get through each stage.